In the remaining 2 weeks before Donald Trump officially becomes president again, he is still confronting very live issues in court, including whether or not he will be sentenced in New York City after being found guilty on 34 felony counts this past May. Today, a New York appeals court judge rejected Trump's emergency bid to postpone his sentencing in that case, which means that Donald Trump will be sentenced this Friday, unless a federal court or the United States Supreme Court steps in. At the same time, Trump is trying to fight the release of special counsel Jack Smith's 2-volume report describing Smith's decisions to charge Trump for hoarding classified documents at Mar-a-Lago and for Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election. Today, Judge Aileen Cannon in Florida issued an order blocking the release of Smith's report until the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals rules on the matter. Joining me now is Joyce Vance, former U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Alabama. Joyce, it is great to see you. I am very eager to hear your assessment of how, first of all, the timeline we're talking about here with the 11th Circuit and whether you think they'll make a decision before Inauguration Day.
It's a great question, and before we even get to the 11th Circuit, there's a problem with this order that Judge Cannon issued this afternoon. That problem is that she arguably has no jurisdiction because she has already dismissed the case, and judges can't act on cases that are in front of them. It looks like the defendant's lawyers figured that out because they filed a supplemental motion this afternoon. They asked the 11th Circuit to refer the case back to Judge Cannon, hoping that they could hold on to this very favorable ruling that she issued. And we'll see if they do that. But like you say, the whole question here is how quickly is the 11th Circuit inclined to act? We've seen them move very quickly in other cases. That's been my experience with them over the years, that in the right case, they will step in and rule. So we may well see something from them imminently.
If they don't choose to act, if they don't issue a ruling and wait until after Inauguration Day, it's basically a wash, right? Because then the matter gets settled at the DOJ, assuming they do say, you know, if they do want the report released, which would be presumably the best outcome from Merrick Garland and Jack Smith, there's going to be new management at the DOJ, right? And management that, by the way, is made up of lawyers that have defended Trump in these very cases, right, Joyce?
Absolutely. This is a delay game for Trump. All he has to do is get past the finish line, which is Inauguration Day, and he can shelve the report. So DOJ's move is to get Cannon's order vacated. If the 11th Circuit vacates that order, or if there's some acknowledgement that she lacks jurisdiction, then they're free to go ahead with the release. You know, Alex, she never had the January 6th case in front of her. It would be a real gamble for the Justice Department to release at least the January 6th part of the report, despite the existence of this order. But it's a real hash for DOJ, knowing that their work will disappear if they don't get a court to order them or at least permit them to release the material before Trump takes over.
What happens to the report if it doesn't get released? If it stays within the confines of the DOJ, is there a chance it could get leaked? Is there someone in archives that Trump could be persuade to flush it down the toilet? I mean, what practically happens to something like this?
So there's a records retention policy inside of DOJ, like in many government agencies, that actually requires that these records be retained. I had lots of old case files that lived in my office and then would get shipped off to a filing area where they were retained for at least 10 years. You're not really permitted to destroy government records. How that would hold up in this situation, we don't really know. You know, DOJ is not a place that one thinks of as being full of leakers, although ironically, there's a report today talking about leaks at the tail end of the Trump administration. But I would hope that, although it would be painful to see this happen, folks at DOJ would not act inappropriately, would not let Donald Trump corrupt their practices. We know a lot about the January 6th case. We know some about the Mar-a-Lago case. Whether release of the report will really matter, I think, is perhaps less important than standing on principle this one final time.